we're going live right now, and we got 30. I talked about if you can hear me over this damn loud ass music. I talked about I'll just let it shut up. Daryl, how's it going?
Good, Jay. How you doing, man?
Absolutely fantastic. I just want to let everybody know this is Rock and Recovery with Jay. And today we have another special guest named Daryl. And we're talking about addiction and recovery and everything else in between. So, Daryl, why don't you tell me what your process, your addiction start at the beginning, and just tell it like you want to tell it.
Sure. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'll try to keep it reasonably concise, but I grew up in a household that was pretty strict, pretty tough. My dad was a mechanic. My dad was a mechanic, and he was a Korean War veteran, pretty tough dude. Nothing against him. He was a great guy. He was just sort of a man's man, and expected certain things from us. I think it was kind of military, shoulders back, chest out, feet together, all that sort of stuff. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. No, ma'am. All that kind of thing. And my mom was pretty tough too. And I think her toughness came from, having some difficult childhood things happen to her. And I'm not sure of all the things, honestly, but I know her dad died when she was 19, and that had a huge effect on her and the rest of her life in terms of just pain and issues and stuff. And if I were to say that, I had a parent who was addicted, I would say, my mom probably had that sort of personality. And it had more to do probably with sugar and that sort of thing than it had to do with drugs and alcohol. But honestly, to me, at this point in my life and recovery, addiction is addiction, whatever it is. And that's the point is how sick I am, not what I'm addicted to.
Right.
So anyway, I got involved in drinking and drugs and stuff starting 13. I mean, pretty similar story, I think, to a lot of folks. And it was trouble. It was losing myself. It was, and I look back at it now and I'm like, it was me losing me. It was me losing track of the things that I had been taught, in terms of my, everybody's got their issues, right? My parents had their stuff, right, and whatever, no big deal. But they taught us the things that, many of the things that we needed to do to be okay in life. And some of them were pretty basic: honesty, forthrightness, trying to do the right thing, all that sort of stuff. And I just forgot about all that stuff. So it was lying and cheating and stealing and whatever I could do to move my self away from how I felt and move myself into something that I thought made me feel better and included and belonging and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, make a long story short, it continued. I continued to get worse as a human. And many of the things that I had believed to be true, they're wiggling around inside of me, telling me I'm heading down the wrong slope and I got problems and I got issues and this and that. And I didn't care, there came a point where I just didn't care. And so there was an intervention done. I was 18 years old. I was just a kid. And it was basically, get your shit together or get out of our life. And they asked me to go talk to a drug counselor, which, at that point, I didn't know what to do, but I ended up doing it. I met them at this place. They asked me to meet if I was going to do it. And something inside of me told me that I needed to do it. Although in my back pocket, I was thinking, I'm just going to lie my ass off to this dude and try to get out of it and try to, wiggle my way through like I did so many other things. And Anyway, I told him, well, I walked into his office and he's like, you can't lie to me. Don't BS me. I don't want to hear it. Knock it off. I'm going to run over you. I'm like, and I'm 18. I'm, thinking I'm tough, but I'm not. I'm just a kid. I'm scared. And anyway, so I told him the truth to the best of my ability at that time.
Right.
Whatever that was. And so, he recommended that I go into treatment. They were going to put me in a 60-day program in Minneapolis, and I guess that was full. And so we did a 30-day program in the Detroit area, and that's when I ended up in treatment. And then my life begins after that.
So, what was the turning point for you, and how going on after addiction? How do you cope with things now after you become sober? How do you start coping? Do you have stressful days, and how do you deal with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Life, the interesting thing about recovery and what I've learned over the years is, and it's, sometimes it sucks. Like life continues to happen. Life just keeps handing me stuff, right? Like, here, deal with this, deal with this, deal with this, and so when I got sober, it was just after my 19th birthday. It was January 3rd of 1985. And that's when I went into treatment. So I had to not only figure out how to live life without drugs, alcohol, whatever, I had to figure out how to live life because I'm just a kid. Like I didn't have a wife. I didn't have, a house. I didn't have anything, I had nothing. But thank God I was able to figure out some of that stuff sober, and clean of the drugs and all that sort of thing. So, life became, it was tough. It was really tough because I was feeling things for the first time. I was experiencing, this whole responsibility thing, and I got to take care of myself. And I decided, nobody in my family had ever gone to college. And I decided when I get sober, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to college. I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue about studying. I didn't have a clue about grades. I didn't have a clue about responsibility. I got a job because I needed one, and I was paying for school, but I also, I had financial aid. I didn't know the ramifications of that. I'm like, oh, free money. Well, it's not. You got to pay it back. And so I'm working this job, and I'm milking cows from 3 to 9 in the morning, and on 2 or 3 days a week, and I'm just wrecked. And so all the things that life presented to me created immense amounts of stress and immense amounts of like, oh man, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this thing called life. And then it started to smooth out. I mean, it took some time. I grew up sort of in the 12 steps of recovery, and which to me is an indispensable guide for living. And that's what it was. That's what it was to me back then. It was like, hey, Daryl, here's how to live. And I'm like, well, good. I'm glad somebody's helping me out because I didn't know how.
Right.
I didn't know how. And so I got a sponsor, and for those who aren't familiar with that, a mentor, basically someone who can help me through. And he taught me a bunch of things. So, do I have stress? Absolutely. Stressful things happen, but you just, over time, you learn. I was able to learn, and sometimes it can overtake me, where I get, just all rattled, but it's pretty rare these days, where something just jacks me up. And that's as a result of being involved in the 12 steps and starting to understand this thing called life, and what I have to contribute to life. I have to contribute the work, and I have to contribute the responsibility, and I have to contribute how I decide to go forward. And then, the stressors in life get a lot less powerful.
A lot less stressful.
Right.
So at this point in your stage, what is your plans going? What do you want to accomplish right now at this point in your life?
This point in my life, I just want to help people. I really do. I mean, I do things. I write books. I've got some consulting things that I do, and completely outside of sobriety. But but I carry all the principles into everything that I do. And I have to carry the principles into everything that I do. And that's as a result of growing up with the 12 steps. But hugely important to me to help other people. Whether it's my books or whether it's doing guest podcast stuff, I know there's a way to do this recovery thing successfully.
Right.
There absolutely is. And there are 1,000 ways to do it unsuccessfully.
Right.
To be quite honest. And not that there's just one way to do it successfully.
No, there's a million ways to recover.
Right.
And I'm going to reiterate that if you're not doing your drug of choice, if you're not in addiction, and if you're lessening and going into recovery, trying to get sober, I'm proud of you. You're worth it, and 100%. You're enough, because whatever form your recovery takes, nobody else can judge you except for yourself. Do it for you, plain and simple. Absolutely.
100% agree with that. And I shouldn't have said one. There's not one way to recover,
no,
but
there
are many.
I understood you.
There is a way, though, because recovery is, getting rid of the drinks and drugs is the first step.
Is only part of it.
And then after that is the rest of life.
Right.
And the rest of me growing and changing and taking responsibility. And all of those things were scary as hell to me in the beginning. And I didn't want to do them, but I
Absolutely.
had to, because I didn't want to go back to the life I had been living. And so anyway, there's a number of ways to recover, but there's also a number of ways to stifle myself in recovery. And I have to learn how to overcome those ways that stifle me.
So at this point, how do you think you can help somebody in their journey? What's driving you? What's the motivating factor for you to want to help them, other than just recovery? I know, but what is it about you that you want to help, and how do you think you can?
We're all dropped on this planet, however it happens, right? We show up, we get our parents, we get our circumstances, we get our life, whatever that is, right? And there's some more difficult than others, some easier than others, all that sort of thing in terms of just life stuff. And we have the opportunity, and I know I had the opportunity to learn at a fairly young age. I was introduced to sobriety, and so I've been working on it for a long time. And the only thing left to do, and this has been the only thing left to do for a long time, is to try to help others. And I call it as simple as wake up in the morning with a smile on your face.
Right.
Because if you wake up in the morning with a smile on your face, you're not gonna go back to drugs. You're not gonna go back to alcohol. You're not gonna have those addictions knocking on your door saying, "Hey, I'll make you feel better," when you feel like crap. And
very true.
And so life is about what's beyond me setting aside my addiction. What do I need to change? What do I need to alter? What do I need to, put my energies into? And that's really the driving force for me, because I'm a big sort of one person at a time believer, that we change the world one person at a time. We're not going to change 1,000 people over here or 1,000,000 people over here. It's my interactions with human beings every single day. And it doesn't have to be people who are addicted to something. It doesn't have to be people who are recovering. It's am I able to get out of my own way enough to give a smile to the person who's checking me out at the grocery store, to, walking down the sidewalk, if I pass somebody,
right.
Can I look them in the eye? Can I smile at them? I might change their day and not even know it.
Absolutely.
But who am I putting out on the planet every day? And that's the most important thing to me. It's not what can I get anymore from the
putting
planet.
Putting the best you possible, because there's only one of you. And, the best you is going to affect somebody somehow. And if it's in a positive way, if you're putting the most positive effort and living in today and people are going to take that positivity. It doesn't matter who it is. They're going to feed off that positivity just as much as they feed off negative. But you know what? You're doing it the right way. And I commend you for that, So what's some of the things, tell me about your book and what's it about and why did you decide to write your story?
My book is called When I Stop Fighting, and the subtitle is The Unexpected Joy of Getting My Head Out of My Ass, which is what I needed to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that point in my life. So it started with a story. It started with my sponsor or mentor in the 12 steps. And I grew up, as a lot of folks did, I think my age and, even younger sometimes, depending on where you come from. But it was no pain, no gain. It was wrestle through all your problems. It was struggle. It was fight this, fight that, fight everything. You're not getting anywhere if you're not just, fighting. And I did not know at that point in my life that the biggest struggle that I will probably ever have in my lifetime is the fight between me and me. And that's a difficult place to be if I don't understand that that's what's happening, because I'm continuing to fight and I'm continuing to feel like crap. But I don't understand that I'm fighting with myself. So my sponsor, as he watched me struggle with my problems and I'm going to talk to him and like, hey man, can you help me? And he said, Daryl, when you stop fighting, the fighting stops. And that was why I titled my book that way, both of my books that way, When I Stop Fighting and When You Stop Fighting, because that's really the battle. We have to get rid of some of the bigger things, the drugs, the alcohol, all that sort of stuff. But then the battle is, what am I going to do with me?
Right. It really is.
Am I going to keep fighting me? Am I going to keep, being dishonest with myself? Am I going to keep not paying attention to what the problems really are, which all boils back to me? If I'm out there blaming the world, I'm not going to take care of me. And I think that's a fact. Crucial, right? Like that's the crucial part of it. So I will just say I wrote my books in order to help. It was the next step in my life. I didn't do it to try to make money or anything like that. I did it because I wanted people to be able to relate to my story, and how I felt and how difficult it was, just the whole getting into recovery and getting, through some of those first couple of, days, weeks, months, years, that sort of thing, getting it together so that they could relate and say, you know what, if this dude can do it, I can do it. And to give people hope. And that's really why I wrote particularly my first book.
So how has being sober affected you now, and how has it changed your life going forward even?
It's everything. It really is.
It really is.
I have been, the drugs, the alcohol, and whatever is distracting me from my life, right? Like whatever is distracting me from dealing with life on a, like, hey, here's life, here's me, I'm just going to deal with it. And whatever's distracting from that can be gambling, can be sex, can be, whatever, lottery tickets, it can be food, it can be sugar, it can be a number of different things. And so I have to get rid of those things to be able to start the journey. I have to be able to, and I've been addicted to all of those things, and at various times, right?
Right, absolutely.
I have that personality, and I think anybody who's in recovery has the potential, right, for that personality, or
that addiction of more.
Yeah, they wouldn't have gone down that road, and that's exactly right. So how do I train myself and my life to be able to live well without that? And today you could throw social media on the pile, right?
Absolutely, you can.
Doom scrolling, right? I mean, and getting emotional. I mean, I still find myself doing that stuff sometimes. I'm like, all right, dude, knock it off.
Yeah.
And I have to tell myself, so I haven't, I was addicted to nicotine in the form of cigarettes as well as chewing tobacco, like all that stuff, and so sobriety, which is the entire umbrella, it's not just drinking and drugs. It's can I live my life and wake up in the morning with a smile on my face without feeling like I have to run to something to find my contentment or my fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that being said, I find myself, see, the reason I got sober, and I haven't done any program, I've done it, informal recovery, yet I work on myself daily, and nowadays it's so much easier to deal with everyday life. Once you get out of that, once you're clear headed and you can think, it's so much easier than dealing with it as it comes, instead of putting it in a bottle and putting a top on it and just shaking it up until it explodes. It's so much easier and it's more satisfying dealing with it now, presently, in the state of clear headedness. It's so much easier. It's so much less stress, it's just crazy.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the stress levels, I think, we induce our own stress by doing things that we know aren't right for us. And
Right.
so I can induce that in myself anytime I want, by not doing the right things regarding myself, not doing the right things regarding other people. And I can do it honestly with I look at the world now in my life as I have to deal with all aspects of me, which to me, and this isn't for everybody, and that's fine. I don't want it to be for everybody unless you want it to be for yourself.
It's absolutely.
But it's body, mind, heart, and soul. If I'm treating my body like crap and I'm putting, sand in the gas tank every day, I'm probably not going to feel good. I'll wake up with a food hangover, like that sort of thing.
Right.
If I'm not, consciously strengthening my mind to be able to withstand some of the things that life's throwing at me every single day, then, I'm going to have a tougher time, with dealing with life. If I don't become somewhat soft-hearted with other people and with things that happen in my life, then, I'm going to struggle. And so all of those things, and from a soul perspective, I just look at that as, look, I just need to quiet myself sometimes. I just need to chill. I need to set myself out on the lawn or in the woods and just listen, or by the seashore, and just allow myself to let go of some of that stressful stuff that life hands me. So it really is kind of a holistic effort in terms of, and I don't want it to sound woo-woo because it's not. It's really not. It's just dealing with life in a responsible way.
So tell me about the feelings and the emotions and the mindset, just going from addiction to being sober to being successful, and what was it like, going from I'm an addict to now I'm a recovering addict, now I'm sober, and being the success you are. And you know what, success is different for all people. So do you consider yourself a success now? Because in addiction, the only thing we were successful at is fucking getting drunk, getting high, or whatever sometimes.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. I mean, I look at success as, and so when I first got sobered, I'll just run through the chronology and then how I look at success now. But we didn't grow up with much money, and not like we were struggling to eat or anything, but that was just it. It was a very blue collar environment. My mom took care of the kids. My dad, was a mechanic. So we had what we had, and it was fine. And it worked, and here I am, right? I was fed. When people talk about their needs, and I've said this to my sons, I'm like,
roof, clothing, yeah. Yep.
That's what you need, right?
Everything else is extra.
Right, exactly. So food, clothing, and shelter. And I don't think, I think people think they need now, like, well, I need my Starbucks drink.
I need my cell phone. I need my,
right. It's not that stuff, right? So, and we think it is, which puts us in a position where we're pointing our fingers at the world saying, well, everything's not right because I don't have everything that makes me comfortable.
And you know, that right there keeps a lot of people out of rehabs, out of recovery centers, in sobriety. They keep that right there keeps people in addiction because they can't have their extras instead of just the basics.
Absolutely, brother. Could not agree more. I'm going on a, this is funny. I hadn't planned on talking about this, but I'm going on a little like retreat this weekend where, you know, this friend of mine, and his name is Dr. Bob. But anyway, I'm going on this thing. It's in Texas. I'm going for the weekend. They're taking my cell phone. I'm sleeping in a bunkhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
that sounds vacation.
But I'm going because it could be something that really helps, you know, just helps me understand myself a little more or whatever, you know, like those are the kinds of things that we can throw ourselves into. And I can throw myself into without judgment, without fear, without like, oh man, I'm going to get exposed, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it feels good to be able to do that. But let me get back to the question. I'm sorry I got off track.
I get off track. My squirrels have ducks and they identify as chipmunks. So, you know, and none of them are in a line or a row or any semblance of form. And they all like the color blue.
Yeah. No, it's all good. So growing up in a family that, you know, was whatever it was. It was what it was. And so I wanted to, once I got sober, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to go grab this thing called life and I'm going to be successful. And the way I looked at success back then was having money. And I didn't understand that there was this whole world of like, you know, quote unquote success that includes like some sort of contentment, some sort of meaning or purpose, maybe peace of mind, maybe great relationships.
Those are good ones.
You know, all of those things are success to me, and so far outweigh the whole financial aspect of things.
Absolutely.
I have been fortunate from, you know, the perspective of you know, other sort of ways of defining success and you know, financially and that sort of thing. But that's not what makes me go to sleep every night, and that's not what makes me wake up with a smile on my face. What makes me wake up with a smile on my face is the people I'm surrounded with, and I'm very choosy about the people I surround myself with. I learned a long time ago in early recovery that you know, they call it boundaries nowadays, but we used to call it, you teach people how to treat you.
And you still do. Yeah,
absolutely. Every day, somebody, you know, hands me a load of what I think is BS. Goodbye.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not up for it. And I just don't have those kinds of people in my life. And
for reasons,
because I can't afford to.
Right.
I can't afford to. You know, I feel like I'm, you know, my life is in a great place, but if I start allowing things to sort of chip away at the foundation of my life, and that includes the people that I allow around me, it's a lot easier for them to drag us down than it is for us to drag them up.
Yeah. And it's a lot harder to get drugged down time and time again and have to rebuild yourself and put up those boundaries again, because you know what? I cared about the person, and all of a sudden I let them stick their toe over, and then next thing you know, they're jumping head first past that boundary. And it's like, you wouldn't have had that problem if you would have just stuck to it.
Right.
You wouldn't have had that. Jason, you wouldn't have had that problem if you would have just stuck to your boundary. You know, I cuss myself out all the time on this damn thing. So,
well, it's all learning, right? Like we're handed these lessons. I get handed the lessons, and the really cool thing about life is once I'm handed a lesson, and it might be the 17th time that I'm handed the same freaking lesson. I'm like, really? But then if I learn, I don't get it the 18th time.
Right.
I get it the 17th time, and I'm like, okay, fine. You know, I give up. I have to acquiesce and say, you know what? All right, you kicked my ass. Sorry. like I'm done. And
It's like, I learned my lesson. Can we go on to a different lesson now?
right, because I'll go on to
Yeah.
something else I need to get my shit together
Right.
on.
And I think, way sidetracked, but my savior, my higher power is Jesus Christ. And I think he does that to us on purpose until we get the lesson. And sometimes we have to go back 20 times for refresher courses and see, remember, you didn't like that. Don't do it no more. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. And once we get it, though, we go on to different lessons. And you know what? Those ones that we need to pick up and remember, they're not a problem anymore. We don't have to keep going through the same thing if we get it and we stick to things.
Right. Absolutely. If you, and a great way to illustrate that is drugs and alcohol, right? If we keep doing that sort of thing and we keep throwing, that garbage in us and we keep doing it, we're going to keep getting the lesson like, hey man, maybe you should stop.
Yeah.
Do it. Hey man, maybe you should stop. Consequences get worse. Hey man, maybe you better stop. Consequences get worse. Hey man, oh, okay, I'm gonna stop. And then I get to, at that point, I get a chance to upgrade, right? Like I get a chance to upgrade the lessons. Like
level up time.
Right, it's level up time. It's like, okay, time to help you feel this. Like, time to help you, maybe take that risk where you ask for that job that you were too scared or too embarrassed to ask for. Maybe you asked that person out on a date that you were too scared or too embarrassed to before. Like you can continue to upgrade things and take risks, and that, I believe, is what moves our lives forward. And I agree with you on that. My HP I call God because I don't want to call him Bob or something like that.
Right.
I'd say God. And the less I define for me what God is, it allows God to be that much bigger.
Yeah. The less you put him in a box and confine him, the bigger it is. I understand that.
Which is what I grew up doing because I grew up, as a Lutheran. That's what I was taught as a kid. I was, it was Midwestern, Protestant work ethic, all that sort of thing. Here's your little box of stuff that you're allowed to believe. And I'd be like, and none of it really felt that right. But then I had to, put all my belief stuff on a table. And this is kind of how I envision it.
Right.
I had to put it on a table at some point and say, okay, I don't understand this. This isn't working. This doesn't make sense to me. Oh, I'll keep this because that makes sense. Get rid of this, get rid of that, and then start exploring and then build my belief system based on what resonates as opposed to what somebody tells me I have to believe, because if I don't, there could be eternal consequences kind of thing. Like,
right.
I have to build my belief system. And that's one of the things that I've been fortunate to be able to do over the last many years.
Yeah. It's crazy how we can go from one extreme to the next and pick up all these tools that we need to make it. You know what? I got the same cup. Way off topic. But, it's crazy that we can have those, lessons and, learn from them and continue going forward to a different lesson. Like you said, to a different lesson. And then, let's say for me in addiction, I was terrible with money. All right. So you know what I do? I'd get it and I'd spend it just like that. Now it's like, okay, so you're terrible with money. You don't get none. Nope. You can't have none until you become better. And it works that way though. It's funny how the universe, we'll just call it that, has a way of balancing itself out. So whatever you're terrible at, you're probably not going to learn your lesson. If you're not good at something, you're going to learn your lesson and then be given more, just ways to learn. And that's all it is. It's just life's one big learning process, period.
Yeah. 100% agree, Jay. That is what it's about. It's about, can I continue to pay attention to the lessons? Like, I'm getting them for a reason, Yeah. When I was a kid, it was like, okay, I'm broke. Why am I broke? Well, I'm broke because I don't save any money.
Yeah.
I'm broke because I spend it all. I'm broke
Right.
because I think, like someday, the pot of gold's going to be sitting there waiting on me. Like, no, man, that's
No, you got to work for that shit.
become responsible,
Yeah.
right? Become responsible.
Manage your money.
Exactly.
They used to teach us in school economics and all this other crap instead of, in high school and whatever, how to balance a checkbook. Where'd that go? It went out the window with freaking cell phones, Now it's just, here's a credit card. Here's a spending limit. Go, 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 go away, But
Yeah.
you're never going to learn anything now. There's no point in having a memory. There's no point in learning anything. If I can still remember my grandparents' phone number from 40 something years ago.
Wow. It's made my grandparents' phone number pop in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. But we remember it. That's the crazy thing.
Right.
And we had to, because we didn't have a freaking, contact list. No, our contact list was, okay, I know 5 people's numbers. Those are the ones I need. That's it.
Right.
They don't do that no more. It's just crazy.
It is. We've been conditioned, I think, to always go toward the easiest possible thing. And that's not where life is. Life is not at the easiest possible thing. Life is going through the challenges and taking risks and saying, hey, I don't know, I'm willing to learn, not looking it up on Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Like I remember having to, the whole weird concept of having to figure shit out for yourself.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Exactly. You pull it off the shelf and you do your book report, or whatever it was, right?
Yep.
I'm grateful. I got to say, I am grateful, Jay, that I grew up when I did.
Me too.
Because I don't know, with all of the distractions there are now and all of the demands for comfort and convenience, and please don't make it difficult. When I was 14 years old, my dad put me in front of a farmer at church and said, can you put him to work? Nobody asked me how I felt about it. Nobody asked me if I wanted to get up at, 6 in the morning.
But crack dawn, yeah.
Be there at 7 and then work till 9 o'clock at night. Nobody cared about what I wanted. It was like, put this kid to work. And the farmer's like, yeah, man, I'll put him to work. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Absolutely.
Working my tail off. And that's how I learned work ethic. And that's how I learned, even at, $1.25 an hour, I can make money if I'm working a lot of hours, and that's what it felt like back then. I didn't whine about making $1.25 an hour. I wanted to work more hours, so I make more money.
Exactly. I wanted to go out somewhere on the weekend, so I needed more money. So put me to work harder. Let me earn some more, please.
Right.
It was the value of the dollar, or is the work had value. Now it don't.
Right.
Just like in recovery, the more you put into it, the more you work at it, the more you're going to get from it. You have to have that value in recovery, just like as anything else. If you're going to put all your effort into something, you got to put it all, or you're not going to get the value of it back.
Right. Well, I do believe there's a relationship with, and it's not always instant. Like, when I first started working and getting into a different sort of a work world after college, I put in this much effort before I started seeing any results. And then I put more in, and then the results start, like it takes a while to catch up. It's not, an equal relationship, but it did work, and it worked over time. And I think we're so attuned to instant gratification, right? Like the drugs, the alcohol, the food, gambling, the social media, the sex, whatever, right? Like we want this now.
We want it. We want it now. We want our problem now, please. And if you relate it to like a paycheck, now you go start a new job, and you might have to work first 4 weeks or 3 weeks without getting a paycheck, because you came in the middle of a pay period. Oh yeah, great. Every time I get hired somewhere, it's in the middle of the pay period. Why can't I start at the beginning of the week? I don't know. So it's always in the middle of the pay period. So then you got to wait past that pay period, until half the next pay period. So you could wait up to 3-4 weeks before you get your first paycheck. And you know, you're going to get paid. You know, you're going to get paid. So you keep working. So you build that value into it. And then just like recovery, it comes back to you. You know,
Right.
you'll reap it. So you do the work and then you get the reward. It's not, let me get rewarded for now and then I'll do the work. No, 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 no. You got to put effort into it. You got to make progress out of it. It's just like anything else. If it's worth it, then it's worth doing right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't have to, and this is a hard thing when you're younger, I think, but I've learned that I don't have to be concerned about, if the results are coming from what I do. The results are absolutely coming. And so where am I putting my effort? Am I putting my effort into things that are going to give me a crappy result? Or am I putting effort into things that are going to give me the result that I want? And
maybe not even the result that you want. It's the result that you need.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting that the way I look at my life nowadays is it's beyond anything I could have ever imagined in terms of, and that's what I want people to hear, like in recovery, because it is difficult when you first start, and it can be difficult for a period of time, but then, the difficulty's up here and you're kind of eking along. And then all of a sudden it just, after a few years or decades or whatever, then it just starts getting crazy good. And it's pretty amazing. And I'm not, tooting my own horn or anything like that. All I did was put my nose down and did the work.
Right.
And that's all you really have to do. Put your nose down, put your head down, do the work. And the
keep trudging forward, and I just had the same conversation with the last person I was just had on here. It's not that it gets any less hard. Recovery ain't for the weak. Being in recovery doesn't get less hard. Well, it gets less hard. It doesn't get easy. It gets less hard, And what I mean by that is we build the tools necessary. We can recognize situations that are bad for us. We can avoid them because we've got these strong boundaries. We can put ourselves in the best possible position. Now we have good contacts instead of the shitty ones, so it doesn't become easier. It becomes less hard,
Yeah.
And it really does, because I can go out right now and go probably in my neighborhood somewhere right around here and score anything I wanted. But I know that. And so I don't put myself in those positions because that's not my life anymore. I don't want that. So now I can just turn around and ignore it, walk the other way. And when before it'd be like, all right. Hey, buddy, what's your name? Oh, yeah, I'm Jay. Okay. Nice to meet you. I don't even want to introduce myself now. Why? Why make reservations for something? Why plan for something like that when I don't need to? You can recognize that now. And before, even in really early recovery, I probably would have said, hey, how's it going? Just in that mindset. All right, if I ever have a bad day, I know where to go. You got to get out of that thinking. You really got to get out of that head and don't make those reservations. Forget the people that you knew. Don't go looking for new ones. The new ones will find you. The proper people will find you, and that's the biggest thing. It's a waiting game, and see who can wait the longest. If you can wait for the people to find you, you're probably going to be better off with those people. If you're doing the right thing.
Right.
If you're doing the right thing.
Right. And you know what? The world is structured nowadays, and whether it's online or real life or whatever, I make that distinction because sometimes we think online is real life, right? But we must go out, I think, because I needed to do it, and that was all that was available when I was getting, coming up in recovery, is I have to go find the people that are the right people for my life. And for me, it was getting involved in the 12 steps, and that, that sort of took care of itself. But you're absolutely right, Jay. As we're doing the work and as we're living a different way, the right people will come into our life. and maybe some of the wrong people, but we need to develop the tools to be able to, keep them out of the gates. And I think
Yes,
it's just crucial. Life will work with us to make us better. And
it
life always
will.
has worked with me for a long, long time. And am I working with life? That's the only question, is what am I doing? What am I contributing to the mix here? If I'm just contributing garbage, life's going to be like, dude, you got to get it
Yeah.
together. Here's your lesson. Here's your lesson. Here's your lesson.
And they'll
Until
put the people, life will put the people you need in your life for a reason.
right,
Good or bad. If you want to be bad, then he's going to put bad people in your in your life for that,
right,
because that's who you're searching out. But if you're trying to do the right thing, he's going to put the people you need in your path to help you succeed.
absolutely, absolutely. And
You know,
we have to learn to distinguish.
and being sober helps us notice those people.
Right, absolutely. Distinguish between what's working, what's not working, jettison what's not working, double down on what is working, and
Absolutely.
continue to follow that path of what's working. It's absolutely crucial.
And I got to ask, the one thing I ask everybody that comes on here as we get close to the end of the show is, if anybody's out there that's, thinking about getting sober or trying to check this, sober curious, or even in early recovery and just wanting that hope, what would you tell that person? What do you want? The one main takeaway from this whole conversation? What do you want?
So I'll answer that with a story, because I think it's a really important one that has stayed with me for decades. But I used to go to this 12-step meeting in a city that was nearby where I got sober, and it was a Friday night. It was at a community center. A whole bunch of people like me, which were young, just getting sober, just kind of coming out of the gates, and some cared about sobriety, like I did. I really cared about it, and then some, weren't taking it as seriously. And so I'm at that meeting, and at that meeting, one of the founders of that meeting was a guy named Jimmy. And he was kind of a slight older guy, not very big, kind of walked a little hunched over and pretty slow, and in terms of his walking, and he didn't say a whole lot. But he was the one guy, and here's the thing, he was about 40 years sober at that time. So he was 40 years into recovery, and we all looked at him like, oh man, Jimmy, like, wow, it was just amazing for us to see that as these young people. But Jimmy was the only one in that meeting, or any meeting that I ever went to, that would go fill up the coffee carafe and fill up people's coffees. He would go and fill up everybody's coffee in the meeting. And there were a lot of people at this meeting. So he would spend his time doing that. And it was the most selfless, sort of service oriented thing, but it was indicative of one of the things that he would say. And this is a really important thing, I think, that newcomers or folks new or thinking about getting sober could think about, that might help. He would say, if you want to get sober and you want to, get straight and move forward in your life, you have to learn how to stay small. And
That's
what
true.
that means is to stay teachable, to stay humble, to stay learning, to not think that, oh, I got this, man, I know what to do, and because that can be the kiss of death, honestly, to think we know. And I still don't think I know. I'm very comfortable with not knowing in my life. And that's what I got from Jimmy so many years ago, that if I stay small and stay humble and don't have to be right all the time, I'm in a position where I can learn and I can change and I can grow.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on here and being able to share your story. It's always amazing the amount of people that I find that are so willing to share, because, I never had that when I got, I did it cold turkey, and I keep doing it. And, I recover my way, which, nobody has to like, but you know what? I think I'm stronger for it because I found the connections. I found people, I found people. I had to look for people because I was isolated, and that right there, being able to be accountable to others and being honest and upfront and accountable with others is the biggest reason I am able to stay sober. Because the people around me now will call me on whatever, like, Jay, what's wrong with you, Jay? You're not doing so good. I know, I'm not doing so good. You're right. I'm just feeling feelings. I'm still learning how to deal with them, but that right there keeps me the the best I can be, that. And you know what? I did all the right things. I changed people, places, and things. I shortened my circle. I don't hang around with those people. I talk to people daily in recovery, and they've taught me things that I didn't even know that I needed to do, and I do them. I never been to a step meeting, you know what? But I still go. I do them daily. I've gone through the steps with people. Not going to a meeting doesn't mean you're not in a meeting when you're with somebody else that's doing it. And this is the biggest form that I find connection, the opposite of addiction. Connection is the biggest uh, recovery I know, being able to be connected with the right people. So I thank you for coming up here and being able to share your story. I think all of our stories are going to be somebody else's survival guide. And I really truly believe that. So I appreciate your time that it coming out. And if you want to tell everybody your book again, I go for it.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. My book is When I Stop Fighting. It's on Amazon. You can just type in When I Stop Fighting. My second book is When You Stop Fighting. And the subtitle of that one is The Road You're On Is Your Own Asphalt. And
ASSPHA or FAUT?
It's actually asphalt, like on the road. But
Okay.
yeah, people.
I was gonna say ASSFAULT.
Yeah, well, that's what it means for sure.
Okay.
So anyway, those are my books. And if you want to check out my website, it's DarylDittmer.com, DarylDittmer.com. And thanks, Jay. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Thank you. And until then, I want everybody out there to know that there is hope at the end of the tunnel. There is a light, the right light at the end of that freaking sobriety tunnel, that recovery tunnel. Look at this guy, Daryl, right here. He's fucking success in my book, in everybody else's book too, and in his own. That's the most important thing, So you know what? Just keep rocking recovery. Keep taking the next step forward. There's going to always be ups and downs, but just keep going forward. You got this. Stick around another day. That's all we can ask. Until next time, rock your recovery. Thank you, Daryl.
Thanks, Jay.